Hi guys, good morning. I trust you are doing well. Today I'm working on a project. Essentially what we'll be doing is that we are going to create a VPC, then we'll create one public subnet, three private subnets as we see here. Then we'll create an internet gateway, we'll create a bashing host server, we'll create a web server, we'll create a NAT gateway and an RDS and an app server in between. So essentially what you see on this picture is what we are going to create. So let's just get right into it. So we'll start. Let me stop sharing and then share my console. We'll start by creating a VPC, then they add a name. So the rest, and I'll give it an IP4 cider. Let's give it 192.168.0.0/cider16. Okay, then the tenancy will leave it at default. Then we move on to create. All is good at this point, so we move on to create. And then you see that our VPC is created. And what we have to do now is that we have to create subnets. So I said we needed one public subnet and three private subnets, right? So let's just do that. On the far left here, we'll click on subnet. A couple of subnets, default subnets opened. So for example, if you are in the console and you launch an EC2, only an EC2, automatically it will be launched in a default VPC. Or if you decide to launch a Lambda function, it will be launched in a VPC, okay, for security reasons. So there are already 6 VPC subnets here. So let's just go to create subnet and create. This is the VPC we created. That's the thread here. So we'll select that. Then so you can decide to add all of the subnets you want to do at once, and that comes in handy. So let's say we are creating a public subnet. So PS, I like to use PS for public subnet. Okay. Then the AZ, we can leave it at US is 1. Okay. Then the side at 116, the subnet side at 168.1.0/24. Yes, I think this will do. And then we can add another subnet. So this was public. So we need 3 private subnets now. So PR subnet. We leave the availability to AZ1, right? Yes. And then we make this one 192.168.2.0/24. That works. Then we'll create another one. We create another subnet. So PR, S. Okay, so let's assume this is PRS1, private subnet 1, and this is PRS2. Okay, we pick the same AZ, US is 1, and then the side that we can do 192, I mean the subnet IPv4 sub, we can do 192.168. say 3, dot 0//24. I think that works. So we have two now. So remaining the last one. So we are going to do PRS3, and then with this one, we'll, for purposes of the availability is the 1B, okay, and then the subnet side CIDR block we'll do 192.168.4.0/24. I think this one also works 24. So yes, it works. So we can create our subnet, and it will create all in a bit. The next thing we have to do is that we have to add routes. We have to add routes to it. We'll add a public and a private route. Okay, so if we push this down, yes, you see the subnets that we have created are here. Public subnet 3, subnet 1, subnet 2, they are here. Okay, because they have been selected, so to speak. But if we take this out, it's been filtered. If we clear the filter, you see initially we had 6 and now we've added 4, so that's just that, right? So we'll have to set the route tables. The route tables essentially is what you will direct the traffic in and out of your subnet to either the NAT gateway or the NAT gateway or the internet gateway. So yeah. Okay, so we will need an elastic IP. So let's just allocate elastic IP here. Okay, so allocate. So pretty much we leave everything as default. The public IP for pool, the network border. So we leave everything as default. And then global static IP, we will not touch it, we'll just allocate. Okay, so now we've allocated an IP. One thing about elastic IP is that you are not charged for using it. Okay, but if you are not, you have you using it. But when you are done using it and you don't release the gateway, so from the diagram that I showed earlier, the internet gateway is to give your VPC access to mainline internet. So try to we can set with the name GW. Okay. So we create. When we are done, we'll have to associate it with the VPC we are working with. Other than that, so you see where the green thing came, it says attach VPC, or you can also come here and attach. So anyone that works for you. Okay, then you can select your VPC. When we are done, then we'll go to we'll create a NAT gateway, which will help communication with resources in a private subnet. So this is our VPC. So we'll attach it, right? Yes. So the NAT gateway essentially helps resources in the private subnet communicate like with the internet, like get updates and patches without traffic coming in. And it has to be the NAT gateway has to be placed in a public subnet, right? It has to be placed in a public subnet. So we create a NAT gateway. Okay, so we can do name it 3-tier NAT gateway. Okay, and then we'll select a subnet. It has to be in a public subnet, right? So this is the only public subnet we have, so we'll place it here. And then we'll select the elastic IP that we allocated. Let's see if there's something to see here. Okay, pretty much nothing. We can leave the rest and then create a NAT gateway. So the next thing is after we have one to the public and one to the private. Okay, so we have our route tables here. Route tables. Yes, so there's already one here, which comes with the default VPC. So we'll create a route and we can decide to make this a public route. So PRT, public route table. Okay, and then select our VPC and then create route table. Okay. Then we'll create another one for the private one. So we'll come back probably here and then create another route table. Public, right? So this would be private route table. So sorry, let me verify. The one we created earlier was a private. So now we'll create a public. No, it was a public route table. Now we'll create a private. So PRRT, private route table, and then we'll select this VPC. Then we'll create. Now what we have to do is that we have to associate all private subnets with the private route table, and then all public subnet with the public route table. Okay, so that's just that. So let's go back to route tables and select the public route table. And when you look down here, we have subnet associations. So we have details which gives you more information about it. We have, so right here is from my destination to the local. Okay, the subnet route. I mean my IPv4, my CIDR block for the main VPC. And then when we come to subnet association, we'll have to edit our subnet associations here. And this is explicit, okay? We have to do an explicit one, but here is implicit. These ones are implicit ones, but we have to explicitly associate these subnets with the route tables so that they can accordingly communicate. Okay, so this is edge association. Let me just explore. I'm not so sure what is there. I presume it's about a CloudFront or delivering content to your user at edge. So you can attach it to your internet gateway, then you save changes. So have time, you can explore that. Let's go back and then associate. Yes. So for our public subnet, we'll come to subnet association, then we'll do edit association. Then we'll look out for our public subnet, which is just this one. Then we'll associate, right? We're going to do same for the private subnet. I mean the public route table. Okay, one. We've just done the public route table, which is PRT. This naming is going to give me an issue. That's just by the way. But bear in mind the double R is for private route table. Okay. So we'll come to the subnet association, then we'll edit. Okay, then we'll select all the private ones and then associate. Right. So we save association. The next thing will be to add a table to be able to access the IGW. Okay, so we'll go to our route tables again, and then we'll select the public route table and we link it to IGW at the route. We'll edit the route to IGW. So public route table, and then we'll do same for the private to gateway. So public route table, we'll come to routes, we'll edit the routes, and then we'll add rows. So what are we doing here? We are saying that this route table, public route table, should allow internet to our IGW. Then we can select our VPC. Okay, then we save changes. We are going to do the same one for private. We are going to do the same one for private. Yes, we are going to do the same for the private. And as I said earlier, with the private, it's going to be linked to the NAT gateway, not the IGW, right? So yes. So we'll come to routes, we'll edit routes, then we'll add routes. We are allowing the destination and then the target to not get. Then we select our VPC 3, then we save. Right. So the next thing we'll be doing is that we'll have to create security groups, right? We have to create security groups. So I want to reshare my screen so that we understand and we don't lose track of where we are. So give me a minute. I want to show you the diagram again. Yes. So I want to show you the diagram. Yes, I believe you can see my diagram now. So from the diagram, we have created the VPC, right? We've created our VPC, and then we've created our public subnet. We've created the three private subnets here, right? And then remember, we created the one public subnet and two private subnets in AZ1, US is one, A, and then we left the private subnet to US is 1B, remember? And we've created our IGW, okay? Then we created our routes. We released an elastic IP, right? Then when we created our routes, we linked uh, two-way, right? Then the second thing we did was that we created the private route and also linked uh, all of these private subnets 1, 2, and 3, okay, to the NAND gateway, right? But then again, remember where we place the NAND gateway was in the public subnet. Now what you're going to do is that we'll be creating instances, okay? We'll have, because it's a three-tier architecture, we are going to have the web server. So we'll launch EC2 as a web server. Then we are going to launch a bashing server, a bashing host server. Then we are going to launch all in the public subnet. Then in the private subnet, we'll launch the app server. Okay. Then in another private subnet, we'll launch the database server. Right. So essentially, this is a three-tier architecture. So at the web level, maybe the UI UX interface where people it's a an e-commerce website. So whatever the users can interact with to make the purchase is a web server. Okay. And so it has to be in the public subnet. Now the application server is what is behind that processes orders and then the online transaction processing and then the online analytic process all will be working under the app server, okay, which is tier 2, and it has to be secured because when it is made public and it's accessible by the internet, it could jeopardize the security of your architecture. So it has to be in a private subnet, as well as maybe your payment APIs and all of those stuff will be here. Then your database will also be in another private subnet. Your database helps you to store data. So if it's RDS, that's a relational, you can store it. And then if it is non-relational, and then you can use MongoDB or other NoSQL databases. So that's just the architecture. I just wanted to draw attention to this. So what we are going to do next is that we are essentially going to create, first of all, security groups for our bashing host, our web server, our app server, and then the database server. So we are going to create 3 or 4 security groups, depending. Sometimes the database security group could be created whilst you are making or you are creating or launching your database. Okay, so we'll be creating 4 security groups. Then after, we'll go and create the web servers. Okay, so let me stop sharing now and then share my console again. I want to believe my console. Uh, you can see my console. I want to believe so. So let me see. Let me verify. Uh, yes, great, great, great. My console can be seen. So yeah. Yes. So the next thing we'll have to do is that we'll be creating security groups. So the security groups here. It's taking a while. Okay, I want us to see probably definitely there might be default security groups, but yes. So there are some default and launch user security groups there. And so we'll be creating we'll be creating our security groups in a bit. So the first one we'll be creating is the Bashan host security group. So we'll name it Bashan SG security group. Okay. You can add some description here. Okay. Then we'll select our VPC, which is our 30 here. Pay attention. There's a default and there's this. If you select this, your whole architecture is not going to work, right? So you have to pay attention to that. And then when we assign, we'll give it 3 inbound rules, one for SSH using your IP and one for HTTP using the internet, as well as HTTPS using the internet as well. So what we are going to do is that we are going to edit the inbound rules. There's actually no inbound rules, so we'll add some inbound rules. We'll add 3. So let's just do this. The first inbound rule is that we are going to allow SSH. Okay, so we'll scroll down here. Allow SSH port 22. Okay, what the source is from anywhere. Why? Because the bashing host is in the public subnet, right? So anywhere IPv4, we are good to go. Then the next one is that we are going to allow HTTP, okay, which is port 80 from anywhere as well. Then we are going to allow HTTPS, okay, which is port 443, I think. Yes. Here you are. To anywhere. Okay. Nice if you could create multiple security groups like the way we could for the subnet, anyways. So yes, then we'll create another one for the web server, also in the which is also supposed to be in the public subnet. So we're actually supposed to add a description here. So let's just say allow SSH into Bashan host. That's interesting. It helps documenting your project so that anyone at all who picks it will have a fair idea of how you went about. Yeah, I think it's a good best practice. So yes, we've created our Bashan security group. Now we have to create another one for the web server. So let's do web SG. Okay, then we can give you a description. I'm not so sure what description we should give you, but let's just web server SG, web server security group, right? Then we pick our VPC. Then we'll allow some inbound rules. We are going to allow the inbound rules just like we did for the bashing. Okay, so we'll allow SSH for 22 from anywhere. Okay. Then we'll allow HTTP because they're in the public subnet. Okay, that's why you can SSH into it from anywhere because the resources there are meant to be accessed by the public. Okay, other than that, we will not give it anywhere for SSH, for example. And then HTTPS. So I think that HTTPS is more secure than HTTP. So we are just allowing the two just in case. Most browsers nowadays will not permit you to use HTTP. Okay, so you have to use HTTPS. So I think we are good to go. Let's save. Let's create another one, which is the app one. We have to create our app. Yes, so let's go back and create our app. App SG. A minute. Okay, so our app SG, and so our app server SG, so app SG. The description is to say app server SG. Then we'll select our VPC. When we are done, we'll do for the database as well. Then we'll add some rules. Remember we said the app server is in a private subnet, so it's not meant to be accessed by the public, right? So we are not going to allow HTTP, but then we'll allow SSH, right? SSH. For not anybody, but then from our what is it called? Our yes, from our bashing host. Okay, so we are going to allow that from our bashing host. Yes, so give me a minute. So we are allowing SSH for 22 to our app server, okay, from our bashing host security group. So the only way the app server can communicate to anything in the public subnet, okay, is essentially through NAT gateway, and which is for patches and then updates, and then the bashing host, which will kind of like cipher or from the public subnet to the app layer, okay. And then the next thing we have to do is that we'll pick a custom ICMP v4, right? Give me a minute. But then we are going to, yes, we'll pick all custom IP4, then the source is going to be from the web server. So essentially, the web server can also communicate with the app server, whilst the bashing host can also communicate with the app server, right? So this time around, which security group are we going to use? The web security group. I hope that's fine. So from the diagram, we should notice that in the public subnet, there was a bashing host and there was a web server, right? And the fact that it's in the public subnet means that it can communicate, people can actually access it. But for the app server, okay, it's in a private subnet. It's not meant to be information or delicate, if you like, information about your application, about your software. So the only way that you want to funnel or regulate communication from your public subnet to the your app server, okay, is to use SSH for bashing. So bashing can communicate with your app server through SSH, as well as your web server can communicate to your app server through ICMP IPv4, right? So we are good to go. Let's create this then. Let's the last one, last but not the least, that's the database security group, right? Yes. We are also going to allow two, one by SQL Aurora, and then the source will be to the app server, and then the other one will be from the bashing host. Okay. So yes. So let's create security group again. Create security group. So this database security group. Then we select our VPC, right? Then we'll add inbound rules. We are saying that we'll add two inbound rules. One is because we are going to use MySQL Aurora, okay, there's a database we'll be launching, okay, which is port 3306. Okay, we want to, there are only two things that can securely access our database. Okay, the first one is the app server, to store data from the app server, right? After it has processed all this and all of those things, it will store to our database. So we are going to pick uh, the app server security group, which is the app SG here. And then the other thing that can communicate, okay, to our database directly is the bashing host, right? Is the bashing host. So we are just going to pick the security group for the bashing host as well, not the web server, the bashing host. Right? So um, now we'll have to do some editing, okay, to use the security group to connect all of the other security groups so that the resources can jump from one place to the other. So in the latter part of the tutorials, you see that when we are in the bashing host, we can jump to the web server. When we're in the best web server, we can jump to the bashing host, and then from any of them to the application, then from bashing to database, then from what's it called, from apps to database. So that is what we are going to do. So essentially, let's go back to security groups so that we see all our security groups that have been created. Yes. So if you take a keen look, let me drag this down a little. Yes, when you take a keen look, you see this is default. This is the group, web bashing security group, app security group. Okay. Now you see that all of these servers that we have provisioned from the diagram, they are connected. Okay. So for example, let's come to the bashing host security group. Okay. The bashing host communicates with a couple of people. So let's come to the inbound rules and edit the inbound rules. We want to add one more inbound rule so that the bashing host, remember we what we said was that we linked the bashing host when we're creating the database DB security group. Okay. When we're creating the database security group, we added an inbound rule for it to communicate with what apps server and then the bashing host. But in the bashing host, there's no rule to allow for the database to communicate with it. So we'll just add it here, right? So we are going to allow the MySQL to be able to communicate. So it's a two-end thing. Okay. So we'll talk about that later. So security group is I think stateless. So you must determine the how traffic, when traffic is coming in, you must assess. Okay. You must investigate, you must search and be sure there's the actual traffic. And when it is leaving, you must also do the same. Okay, but for Knuckles, when it's coming in and it searches it and gives it permission, when it's coming back, it knows it. Oh, I know you. I've searched you already. It allows you to pass through. So that is essentially the difference. So we pick Aurora, right? Then we pick the database security group, right? So DB security group. Then we save. Well, we're going to do same for the web server. So when we did the app server, we allowed where's the web server? Yes, web server is here. When we did the app server, where's the app server? Yes, this is the app server, right? Yes. So when you look at the inbound rules, okay, we allowed IPv4 communication, okay, to this security group ID. What security group ID is this? Let's look at it. Look at the web. Let's look out for it. Okay, let me edit it so that you have a better look at it. That's for the app security group. Great. So which security group is this? A minute. Ends with 0A. Okay. 0A is the web security group, right? So in the IPv4 from the web, right? But in the web, we have not done that. So essentially, this editing we are doing is to do that. Okay, is to add the so that they can communicate. Okay, remember the concept of stateful and stateless. So open up our web security group and then add an inbound rule. So you can see that from edit inbound rules. Yes, so you can see that from here, there is no communication to app server, right? So add ICM IPv4, add rule, all ICM IPv4, right? Then what are we going to connect it to? To the web server, right? I mean to the app server. This is the web server, so to the app server security group. That way they can seamlessly communicate, right? So let's and then one more. That's for the MySQL, and then the source of the database group, and then add the HTTP ATPS for both of the sources. So let's just do that. Where's the app server? Edit route, edit inbound rules. So we are going to add one more for MySQL. So this is the app, so that remember when we're in the DB, we allowed for app and then bashing, but in the app, there's no roof to allow the traffic coming in to come in. So we are going to allow it here for my SQL. Then the source will be the database SG, right? So that they can communicate. And then we'll add another one, is, and it's also be from the internet. So we are doing this just in case, okay? HTTP, HTTPS, so that if HTTP doesn't work, HTTPS works, and we'll not have to be stranded, right? So the source will be, let's just pick anywhere IPv4, right? Yes, anywhere IPv4. Then we save. Then we are done with the all of the security groups. So what we'll do is that we'll be going to create a machine host, our service. So we'll go to EC2, right? Yes. So quickly, let's just do an EC2 search here, EC2. And then when it comes, then we'll create our okay. Okay. So let's just launch. Okay, so we have to name the post. Yes, right. Loading. We'll leave everything else because I don't like to do that. Then if you have this and that if you don't have it, just with this keep that you'll be able to use that here. Yes, I created one earlier. So my bashing host, I just picked that right. And then wait a minute, let me verify that. Downloads. Let me be sure. Okay, yes, great. I have it here. So uh let's edit this. Be sure to pick the this VPC, the one we created, right? So and then the subnet, it will be in the public subnet. By bashing host is in the public subnet, right? Yes. So and then we'll have to enable public assign public IP, right? Right. Let me confirm. Yes, we'll have to enable it because it's in the public subnet. Uh yes, we have to enable it. So let's enable. And then there's already security group we created. The connects is just like that, like neural networks, right? Connects to all the others that I need. So bashing SG. Okay. Sometimes you might see the default one. Be sure to uncheck it so that it doesn't create any issue for you. So let's just explore. These are non-necessary stuff. So I can just close it. We can leave all this at default. Okay, let's see what we have here, the advanced. Okay, okay. So at your free time, you can explore them, but for the purposes of this, I'm just scrolling through. I may not need them now. Then we come here to the user data. Now, the user data is essentially a script that runs for the first time when, what do you call it? What's it called? This is our bashing host. So we are going to tell it to install, to set up our web server, right? Right. A minute. Okay, so essentially, as I was saying, for example, if this was a web server and we needed to install maybe Apache, okay, HTTPD service, we will put the user data here. But because this is a bashing host, okay, we are just going to leave it like that. Then when we are creating our, so we'll just launch the instance. When we are creating our, hopefully everything is fine and won't run into issues. When we are creating our web server, then we can put in our, what is it called? We can put in our a web server on our EC2 instance. So now we are done creating our bashing host. It's live, it's running. It will go through some status checks and then we'll be fine. Now, as it waits to uh, complete this status check, let's launch another one for the web server. So the instance will be web server, right? Web server. Uh, it's still loading. Then we'll leave most of these things as default for the purposes of this labs because they are free tier eligible. Then we'll come for your key pair. Remember I said I already did a pre-lab pre-tutorials and I have them downloaded already on my local device. So if you don't, you can come here. Give me a minute, guys. Okay, so yes, as I said, we'll leave most of these things as it is, then we'll come to our key pair. Yes, then this is our web server, right? So we'll pick our web server and then we'll come to edit. We'll be sure to pick the 3-tier VDC, right? Then the web server is also public, right? So we're going to select the public subnet. I'm pretty sure we'll also enable auto assign simply because it is in the public subnet, right? So that's something to know. The security group. So we select existing, then our web security group here, right? Select that. Okay, let me see if there's anything here. Just play around. Nothing to see here, so we just close it. Right? You leave the storage as default. Then we come to advanced details. We scroll. Pretty much there's nothing to do here. So we scroll down to the user data. Then we input our user data. So let's see what we can do with our user data. All what we are saying, okay, is that you want to write a script, use shebang. I think there's a bash script, right? So shebang forward slash, sorry, first, okay. Then we are saying it should sudo yam update. Yes, it should update itself, and then it should sudo Amazon Linux extras install -y lamp MariaDB 10.2. You don't need to keep all this in your head. Where? So 7.2 p. I could have just copied and pasted, but I just like to type. That's just the way it's. So it's just yes, whatever. So let's see. Press enter. Sudo yam install yes httpd sudo systemctl start. After it installs it, then it starts it httpd, then sudo systemctl enable. After it starts it should enable it httpe. Let's verify everything is all right, then we can save and launch, right? So yes, everything is all right. So yeah, we are good to go. Bin bash sudo yam update, sudo Amazon Linux extras install. Yes, lamp 7.2 p 7.2 sudo yam install. Yes, httpd sudo systemctl start httpd sudo systemctl enable. Okay, then we are good to go. From here, we can just launch. Okay, now we have to do one for our app server. We have to create our app server. Okay. Okay, so we have our bashing host, we have our web server. Now we have to launch our. Okay, so this is our app server. It's still loading. Okay, so we'll leave the rest at default simply because it's still loading, simply because it's free tier legible. So app server, Amazon Linux, AMI. Let me be sure it is free tier. I mean, you can't be extra careful enough on the console, lest you incur unnecessary costs, right? Well, let's see free tier eligible. Probably because with free tier, I can only launch a couple of instances at the same time, I think. Let me see. There's nothing that says anything of that sort though. So, okay, it's in. Mm. Mm, 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 mm. Oh, it's not in. It was for the app. After, I'll be sure to, I mean, undo all of these things. I don't know why my mouse is messing around with me. Yes, so T2 micro, we'll pick that. A minute. Let me verify something here. Okay, and I have a key pair here, so I'll go for that key pair. I believe it's the app server we are on, right? Yes, so I'll go for key pair for app server. I'll edit. Remember to pick your VPC here. So this time around, we are not going to, so it has to be in a private subnet, right? So let's say I'm picking private subnet 1, okay, for our app server. Right. So it was the private subnet 3 that was in another AZ. Let's confirm that. Yes, yes, yes. So we have to keep this disabled because it's private. It's not supposed to have access to the internet or have a public IP. So we already have our security groups here. So we can security pick our app server. app SG this here. Yes, let's play around. What do we have here? Nothing much, so we close it. Configurations, advanced, there's nothing much. Let me verify if there will be a need to install app server, probably. Let's see. Yes, yes, we'll have to install user data. So we'll scroll down to user data. Let me take my time. Okay, okay, okay. So we can just do our shebang. Sorry. Bin bash, right? We say sudo yum install db dash server. Okay, server service Maria DB start. So we are essentially installing the MariaDB database and we are starting it. If I got that right, let me confirm if that is right. Yes, I think we are good to go. So the next thing will be to launch our database. But before that, I just want to take a look at something. Let me see. Okay, let's move on. So we launch. We launch. We launch. Okay. We launch. Can you hear me? Okay. Don't mind me, I'm just messing around. I believe it is in. So, yes, it's in. So the next thing we have to do is that we'll have to create our database. So go to AWS, we'll create our database. Voila. So we've launched our instance. So we can take a look, view all instances. Yes, let me pull this down. Okay, so our bashing is on. It passes the 2/2 checks. Web server is on. The app server is now initializing. Now I want to just draw attention to something. Let's go to status checks. Okay, so the 2/2, sometimes you can have 3/3. Okay, the 2/2, let's three things. If it passes, you can see it ticks green. Okay, the first one we have here, it checks the status checks. That's the system reachability uh is the server reachability, is the system reachable? Okay, in terms of your system provisions like the system city of services. Okay, and then the second one that is the instance status check. Okay, it says if your instance is reachable in terms of the security groups, route tables, and all of those stuff. Okay. So these are basically the two over two. So the first one is I checks the system. The other one is I checks the instance. And then the third one is that it checks your storage, your EBS volume. Unfortunately, we have not added EBS. So that's why it's not picking 3 over 3. But if we were to create and add EBS, you see that an EBS attached volume, you see that it will have that as well. So we're now going to create our database. Yes. It will take a while. So okay. Sorry. So we'll come to databases. Then we'll create database. So we'll do standard create. Then we'll come for MariaDB, right? Standard create MariaDB. We're not doing production. We'll do dev test as a template, simply because we will get free tier. In fact, it's actually free tier here. So why don't we go for that? This environment. So what do we do next? We need to give our DB an identifier so we can say let me be sure that I don't miss what do you call it, the inscription or something. So the DB instance identifier is case sensitive, but it's stored in lower caps. Constraint first characters must be letters. Okay, so I can say tiered DB. Okay, tiered DB, and then I can leave the master name. So you can actually allow AWS to manage your password, your credentials for you automatically. Okay, but then it will cost you using Secrets Manager. You see, so okay, you can view your credentials after you create your database. Click the view credentials details in your database creation banner to view your password, right? And that password, that credentials, and the master and the master username. Don't forget it because you'll be using it to access your database, right, later on. So let me just create my password here. Okay. Then let's see. We can leave the rest. I think so. We can leave the rest as it is. And then then DB security group. We don't want the DB to be public, so we choose no. Okay. And then the DB subnet. Do I have to create one? Because I was going to place it in 3 and 4, subnet 3 and 4. Okay. Anyways, let's see. No, you keep this one. No. If you do that, you expose your DB, right? And then the security group, there's existing, so I'm not going to create. Remember, you have to uncheck this before you select your own. So you have your DB security group here. You pick that one. Then the availability zone, you pick this. Okay. And then RDS proxy is nice, so it can help you connect from a lot of sources. So instead of different sources, let's say your S3, your Lambda, or different AWS services hitting RDS, it might slow its processes and make your DB slow to responses. So you can put an RDS proxy in front, kind of like a receiver that receives all of them hits, then it pushes it to your RDS. So that's just by the way. I don't think we are going to need it here. So yes, we'll leave everything as it is. And then let's see additional configurations. Um, we are going to enable this simply because it will cost you. You don't want to do automatic backups. And then it will also slow the launching of your RDS. Your maintenance, we can just take this out. We may not need it. And then let me verify if we are all good, then we can go ahead and create. So yes, DAZ, okay, okay, yes. So we can go ahead and create. Let's go ahead and create. A minute. Yes. Remember admin. Okay, and the password I know. Don't worry about that. Uh, okay. Okay, so let me see if I left some. Okay, I should just enable this so that it runs fast and probably give my DB an initials. What initials should I even give it? Not like it's necessary, but it's a best practice. So maybe my DB or yes, my DB will do, my DB. So I think we are clean. So let's create. Then we'll try and SSH into our DB. Yes, so we are creating. Yes, our DB is running. Yes, when it's done, it will let us know. Now, what we want to do is that we want to SSH into our bashing host. Remember, I have my .pem, right? So we'll SSH into our bashing host. So we can just let me do something s ec2 because we need our bashing host IP, public IP. So let me just open it in another tab, right? So it's still creating. We'll need our database host name. Okay, so also we provided here. So to be able to access our MariaDB, we need our database host name. We need a username, which is admin, and we need a password to be able to access it, right? So whilst we wait for that, let's just SSH into our bashing host. So I lost connection there. It's still creating. Nice. The backups, you see that it would take a while, a long while for our DB to be created. Yes, and now our DB is available. So we need this endpoint, which is the host name. We need our admin, master admin username, and then the password, right? So I'm going to copy this and put it somewhere. I'm going to copy that and put it somewhere. So let me put it somewhere so that when we need it, will not be found wanting in case that goes away. So yeah, I'm just listening to it. Yes, great. So we said we're going to SSH into a bash host, right? Uh, um, open a terminal and change screens again. Okay, so yes, so if I come here and I want to SSH on my terminal, I'll just use this. After I've smart this, then I connect to this. So that's just by that. So there are a couple of ways to access your EC2, your bashing host. So this is the SSH client I was talking about. And I can as well use the session manager. Session agent is not online, was unable to connect to a system manager endpoint to register. It's remote access. Move towards zero standing privileges by requiring operations to request access. We can as well try Instance Connect. So I think they're having an issue with the session manager. So we can try Instance Connect. So we connect via this. And when we do this, it should connect for us. Should connect for us. And I'm hoping I could. It couldn't? Okay. Okay. Then I think what we'll have to do is that we'll have to go back and use the git bash. Okay. Yes, I just have to go and use the git bash. Okay, so I believe you can see my terminal now. So yes, we I went back, I exited, then I secured copied both the download version and then the app server into the Bastion server home. Okay, and then when I SSH into the Bastion server, I realized and I listed, I did the ls, I realized that it's both here, right? So right from here, I have to change the permission to only read, right? Only me, only by me. So let me just see mode again. See mode 400. I'm not sure if it works for the two. Let me just try it. There's no harm in trying. If it works, if it doesn't, now we know. So .pem and then bashin, sorry, bashin underscore host .pem. So if it doesn't work, we know you cannot change permission for two of them at the same. Whoa, it worked. It worked. So that's great. Now we are done with this. We have to SSH from our bashing host into our app server, right? So SSH dash I, then we have our app dash server dot pem, right? EC2 dash user at. Now I'm just going to collect from my console there. Private IP for the app. That's what we'll use and see if it works. Oh, my internet, it's messing me up. So back in my console, I did guys. Yes, me, that's fine. So I'm going to it here. And it should take me to voila. Now let's do PWD. We have home EC2 user, but let's do LSNC. You see, we don't have the bashing, the app server and the bashing server as we had it earlier here. So it tells us that we have moved from our bashing host to our app server. I think that's clear, right? So yes, we've moved. So I just want us to do something here. And we can ping the private IP address of the web server. And see if it connects, right? So let's just do a ping. First of all, let's do host name. Okay, but we are in the app server, and that was the bashing. So we want to ping. We don't want to ping ourselves. When we ping host name, we are pinging ourselves. So see something. Okay, so it's not actually known. So we ping what it has given us here. So this is what it has given us. So this is the IP. So 192.168.2.73, and then it should ping, right? So it is pinging itself. The app server is pushing traffic to itself. So let me do a Q and see if it takes me out. What about a C? Great. So it takes me out of it. Now let's ping. Want to ping our web server. So I'm going to collect the public IPv of the web server from my console quickly. Then we ping it and see the traffic it takes to it. So copy, great. And then in the terminal, we paste. So enter. Yes, so it is giving traffic to the web server. That's nice. So from here, I think that we want to try and see did it connect? Yes, it did connect. I think it did connect. Yes, it connected. 58 bytes of data I connected. So what I want us to do is that we should want to test out connecting to our database using the MySQL, right? So all right, guys. So now that we are in our app server, let's do MySQL -- version to see if it has MySQL installed. No, it's not found. So we'll do sudo dnf install. We actually specified MariaDB -yes MariaDB 10.05. That should work. Yes, now it has installed MariaDB. So let's do MySQL -- version and see. Let's do MariaDB -- version. Okay, so it gives us the version we have here and the distribution, right? So now let's enter our MariaDB. How do we do that? Let's try. I'm copying the host name from where we got on our the database. After we created the database, the host name. Okay, so my SQL -age. We paste this here, right? Then you have -u. Okay, then we have admin. Then we have -p. Then it's asking us for a password, and when we do, it won't show, but it will pick, right? And then right away, we are in our database, and we can do show database, database. This with an S semicolon, and voila, we are in. So guys, thank you very much. We've come to the end of today's tutorial. Thank you for your time.